I'm Mark Wybrow and this is the Electronic Cafe, the channel for the lovers of electronic music.
And I'm Andy McNabb, so let's get started.
Look ahead on the screen, slim perfect creatures and they're just 16. Their eyes meet, this is it, the contact so much more than words can transmit.
So welcome to another fact-filled music bursting episode of the Electronic Cafe. Couple of things to update you on before we head into the whole heady world of Heaven 17. Mark and I had the great fortune to spend lunch on Saturday in beautiful Brighton with the wonderful Jennifer Touch. We had a great time, really good fun. She's such a laugh, very smart lady, and we're getting her to sign a copy of her amazing album Behind the Wall, which you know is a big favourite of me and Mark and our friends at Electronic Cafe. So one lucky subscriber will win that. It's winging its way over to her as we speak for her to sign and send back to me and Mark before she heads back to Berlin. But yeah, Jen, just want to say thank you. I also want to say thank you to the amazing Abby in Bella Union. So me and Mark went into the shop with Jen actually, and amazing music in it. Obviously it's a great label, me and Mark are massive fans of. But if you haven't been on their site or you happen to be in Brighton, go to the store or just say hop on their site and have a look at some amazing music. Absolutely brilliant. As I walked in, they were playing currently my favourite album, one of my favourite albums of the year, which is Lost Horizons. So straight away I knew I was in good company. But yeah, thoroughly recommend the Bella Union shop and their website. Check it out. Right, in this episode we are going to look at the amazing Heaven 17, which is, you know, spawned from the Human League, who we did a feature on just recently. And we'll have some amazing hot stuff music for you to check out. So I can't wait to talk to you about some releases that Mark and I are absolutely loving. So let's get yourselves nice and comfortable and check out the amazing history of the incredible Heaven 17.
Back from work, she's not home. Another evening angry all alone. She arrives and he departs. Misunderstandings and the breakdown starts.
We are late tonight, we are refugees. There is no easy way, let it be right. Anything's possible if you can make it, but there are places anywhere if you're not right. We are the geisha boys doing it wrong again. They are the chosen ones doing it right. Here come the temple girls looking for sanctuary. Thinking as advertised for the first time.
So, Heaven 17 was formed from the ashes of the original Human League, unfortunately parting company and going their separate ways. As we all know, Phil Oakey carried the name with him and went on to considerable global chart success, which left Ian Craig, Marsh and Martin Ware to kind of wonder what to do next. What was good was they managed to get, from a vocal perspective, the guy they originally wanted, Glenn Gregory. Didn't realise he was a photographer at the time until I started doing some research, but was very good friends with him. But obviously joined the band, and they've occasionally reformed since the sort of 80s to record and perform. I think they started doing their first ever live concerts in '97. Marsh left the band in 2007, but so Ware and Gregory have continued to perform as Heaven 17. I've been sort of fortunate enough to see them a couple of times, and they are a great live act. Glenn's voice is still sounding fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing them at the Roundhouse in September. Those guys also formed a production company called the British Electric Foundation, and BEF, as they became known, was their first recordings were like there was a cassette only thing called Music for Stowaways. I did have a copy. An LP called Music for Listening To, which was re-released on CD in, I think, '97. It had a couple of extra tracks on it. I say, when they got their lineup sorted, the name came from the book Clockwork Orange, which was by Anthony Burgess, and it's where the Heaven 17 are at number 4 in the charts with Inside. So that's how they got the name. And I say it was intended to be just one of the musical projects, Heaven 17 for BEF, and they obviously their debut single that Heaven 17 released was We Don't Need This Fascist Groove Thing, which attracted some attention, especially from yours truly, because I remember getting that 12-inch and loving it and just thinking what a great track. Played it to everyone that was actually listening to it, but due to its overtly left-wing lyrics, it was banned by the BBC due to, I think it was its legal department, because it referenced or labelled Ronnie Reagan, who had just recently been elected at that time the president for the US. And neither this or any other 4 singles from Penthouse and Pavement reached the top 40, which is bizarre. I really thought they'd done far better than that. But, you know, the album itself was a totally different thing. Before I go into Penthouse and Pavement, from a BEF perspective, they also brought out a couple of albums. The first one being Music of Quality and Distinction Volume 1, which I managed to get a very good copy of just recently, actually. And then it's covers of songs that Glenn, Martin and Ian grew up with as kids, and the vocalists Tina Turner, Billy McKenzie, Paul Jones, you know, just really good, some good artists on that. And the second album was Geisha Boys and Temple Girls, which went on to be a Heaven 17 track, which was used for the dance troupe Hot Gossip, if those are old enough to remember them, from Kenny Everett. That album used songs formerly recorded by the Human League and Heaven 17, and amazing a track from Talking Heads and Sting. So, you know, nice bit of history there, but, you know, the album that kind of brought them to a lot of people's attention was Penthouse and Pavement. So let's have a look at that. The first album release from Heaven 17, with the assistance of BEF, was the fantastic Penthouse and Pavement. An incredible album. I remember when I saw the cover for the first time, I was like, whoa, I love this. It's going to be good. And I knew that, you know, these two guys, obviously part of the original Human League, so it's going to have a massive electronic element, which it certainly did, and Glenn's voice did not disappoint. Some great tracks on this album, you know, Fascist Groove Thing, I mentioned, surprisingly, to say the first 4 singles on this album didn't chart. I was so surprised, because I remember buying those and like Play to Win, I had a 12-inch, and just thought they were being very commercially successful. But the album did a lot better. It charted, I think it got to number 14 when it was released in 81. Stayed at the top 100 for 77 weeks. So, like, you know, that's a year and some months. Certified gold by the BPI in October 82. Yeah, just a really good album. Actually, in the 1001 albums you must hear before you die book. I thoroughly recommend you should, because it definitely deserves to be in that list. I remember reading some reviews. I mean, Paul Morley was one of the biggest reviewers of the NME at the time. He said Penthouse and Pavement is fabulous, and it won't deny your needs, and you just put your faith in it, because it is true. It was ranked by then the 5th best album of that year by the NME, and we all know what a great year 1981 was for music. I think in a retrospective review, Dan Leroy of AllMusic felt that the album combined electropop with really good melodies, and that Glenn Gregory was able to deliver the overtly left-wing political lyrics that sounded pretentious. And he did an amazing job, and he carries on doing so. I've seen them live a couple of times, they're amazing. I love the cover of this. It's just like, you know, it's so 1980s Maggie, Maggie Thatcher, but it's just a great album. Still sounds good today. You know, you guys did a really good job on this. You know, Mr. Ware, Marsh and Gregory, you know, I'm sure you're very proud of this.
Speeding through your magazine, pistol, pavement, no TV.
Talk and talk,
No time,
no time.
burnt inside, burnt inside, burnt inside.
Here comes the daylight, here comes my job. Uptown and
There on your ass, and look at funky chain dance. Brother, sister, shoot your best. We don't need this fascist groove thing. Brothers, sisters, we don't need that fascist groove thing. Brothers, sisters, we don't need that fascist groove thing. History will repeat itself.
Mark, over to you, buddy.
The Luxury Gap was the second studio album by Heaven 17, released in 1983, just 17 months after the release of Penthouse and Pavement. The Luxury Gap is considered to be their pop masterpiece. It was packed with hit singles, and it was the band's ambition to combine their love of soul music with electronic music. The result, which added piano, strings, and the Earth, Wind and Fire horn section to the band's cool synthesizer pulse, made The Luxury Gap one of the seminal albums of the British synth-pop new wave. Virgin Records were seemingly relaxed during the making of it, and they allowed the band to work with no budget, and their band repaid their faith by delivering a string of hit singles: Let Me Go, Temptation, Come Live With Me, and Crushed by the Wheels of Industry. Temptation, arguably the band's biggest song, was nearly never even released as a single, but the band managed to convince their sceptical record company that Temptation had to be a single. Virgin did several remixes, but the band said, no, it has to be our mix, trust us. Temptation was a duet between Glenn Gregory and R&B singer Carol Kenyon, and this song perfectly framed the band's manifesto of combining soul music with electronic music, and it reached number 2 in the UK singles charts. The band was fully vindicated, and the rest, as they say, is history. The Luxury Gap is the band's best-selling album, peaking at number 4 on the UK album charts and becoming the 17th best-selling album of the year. If you don't know this album, you simply must go and check it out. It is one of the defining albums of the 80s.
I heard a rumor that fires were started, flame in the streets, and tension uncharted, bigger than life at the edge of the city, ashes and diamonds, leaving with pity.
Who'll stop the rain? Who's got the action?
East side. But now there is a time, a tortureless sublime. Our souls are locked and frozen.
Once we were years ahead, but now those thoughts are dead. Let me go.
There is a certain amount of conspiracy or supposition surrounding the split of the original Human League into Heaven 17 on the one hand and the new Human League on the other. The relationship between Phil Oakey and Martin Ware had always been turbulent, and the pair had often quarrelled over creative and personal matters. Their manager, Bob Last, tried to reconcile both parties, but that proved to be an impossible task. So, what was decided was that 2 new bands would be formed rather than let the whole thing dissolve completely. At this crossroads, the stakes were high for both bands, as there had been limited success and even less money made by both of them. Retaining the Human League name came at a heavy price for Phil Oakey. He was responsible for all Human League debts and commitments. Also, the new Human League would have to pay Ware and Marsh 1% of all royalties of the next Human League album under the Virgin contract. Fortunately, both bands were signed to Virgin Records, and even more fortunate was that their first 2 releases were massive successes in Penthouse and Pavement for Heaven 17 and Dare for the Human League. The next, as they say, is history, and I guess one big sigh of relief all round. A point to remember, as Andy said, is that Heaven 17 were not intended to be a group. In the beginning, it was the British Electronic Foundation, or BEF for short, and the BEF was going to be a portfolio of future musical projects, of which Heaven 17 would be just one. That didn't stop Heaven 17 going on to be one of the all-time great British synth bands.
Heat. War.
They sent you to a duet.
Sweat. Law.
If you can move it, prove it. At the height of the fighting. Hey la hoo. At the height of the fighting. Here today tomorrow. Where you lead, I will follow. All that kissing, no passion missing. Come live with me. Kiss the boys goodbye. Come live with me. Kiss the boys goodbye. City clubland, theater dance, empty house, no audience. Mother's working, Roman master, play to win and break the bank. Play to win. Run professional, know your job, be up to every trick. Make a breakthrough, strain your eyes. Have no secrets, hero minds. Hesitate, we can't keep on living like this. Leave no track. Don't look back.
All I desire,
Temptation,
keep climbing higher and higher.
temptation,
Adorable creatures
temptation.
with unacceptable features.
Chemical love fight within your grasp. Social partners without a pass. Buy the pleasure commodity. Invest in personal industry. On your money. On your money. On your
So welcome to our Hot Stuff section where Mark and I look at some of the hottest albums that are out there right now for your consideration and to make your ears very happy. The first album I want to talk about is by a band called Small Black. The album is called Cheap Dreams. It's their fourth album. It's the first release for more than half a decade. And it kind of finds the band continuing to do what they do very well, and that's kind of like a modernised blend of 80s new romantic sort of synth pop like Duran Duran, Depeche Mode, and 90s shoegaze that kind of creates their own quite distinct sound, I think. There's a vocalist called Josh Kleinick. He's got a way of combining really thoughtful lyrics over the music on all their albums, and this one is no exception. I mean, the first track, Tampa, opens on a gleaming melody. Duplex, another track, has shimmering synths, and there's a gentle falsetto of Josh's imbuing lyrics so they have a real soft texture. There's a track called The Bridge that travels on like a real floaty piano melody, and there's this really nice sort of elongated vocal, and there's walls of sounds that give the feel of shining layers. I think the standout track on this is probably Tampa. It's a depth of impressive, I'm trying to think, scope of blending three different sonic textures while giving a feeling of suppressed energy lying just below the surface. And you know, they do a great job of creating timeless songs that feel like they could fit on any of their albums. I think the main difference with this one is it finds the band incorporating more of a hi-fi sound than the traditional lo-fi sounds found in that chill wave genre. So it's kind of just, it's almost like it's a TV that's gone from black and white to HD. Really liking this. The more I play it, it's just growing on me like a rate of knots. So yeah, check this out, Small Black and Cheap Dreams. Really, really enjoying it.
It's your song.
My first Hot Stuff album choice is Sacred Dreams by London-based Swedish outfit Josephine Orn and The Liberation, released in 2019. Sacred Dreams is their third album and can be described as a blend of retro electronics and reverb-drenched psych krautrock, taking the band into a new direction and the band's sleekest and most accessible album release so far. The 12 tracks that make up Sacred Dreams could be divided almost perfectly into 3 distinct smaller projects, immaculately produced and a thoroughly modern take on various forms of electronic psychedelia. While electronics have always played a part in their music, the first 4 tracks take centre stage, shifting the band away from their more guitar-orientated material and are propelled by overdriven, sequenced bass lines and krautrock-infused, arpeggiated 80s synth pop. Following the synth-laden first part of this record, it then gives way to a middle section of 4 tracks that provide us with an updated version of the psychedelic sounds of the past, dream pop with the reverb-doused drum machines, bright melodic guitars and subtle trippy vocal effects, a kind of 2019 remake of the Velvet Underground's self-titled 3rd album. The final part of Sacred Dreams is easily the strongest and the most captivating. The last few tracks wallow in a vast ocean of sound, worlds away from the sharp upbeat start of the record. It has washed out moments of loud guitars and reverb, creating a Brian Eno type landscape, dreamy yet epic tracks, embellished with soaring strings and synth arrangements to get lost in. So, in conclusion, an album to totally adore and get lost in, and indeed a most enjoyable record, and I would urge you to check it out should the sound of this eclectic electronic album tick any of your boxes.
And the second album I want to talk about is the amazing Love Drips and Gathers by Piroshka. This has been talked about quite a lot on our Facebook page, so I know it won't be a surprise to a lot of people that, you know, are raving about this, that I've dug deep on this and absolutely fallen in love with it. This is following from their 2019 album Brickbat. This is an even deeper dive. For those who don't know who Piroshka is, it really is formed of kind of what we would all call a supergroup. You've got Justin Welsh of Elastica, you've got Mick McConroy of 4AD post-punk band Modern English, and then you've got Mickey Bereni of Lush, who I used to love Lush, and then Moose McKillop of the band Moose. I think a live review of the band in Sounds magazine infamously coined the term shoegazing because of those guys. Yeah, that combination can go really wrong and unsettle a lot of people. But in these guys' case, I think the bond has got stronger the more they've been together. The album I mentioned, Brickbat, explored much more social and political divisions, whereas Love Drips and Gathers follows a more introspective line, you know, the ties that bind us as lovers, parents, children, friends, to a much more subtle, more earth-real sound, but there's still energy and drama. The way this album changes shape and dynamic is less a reprise of the 90s Brit indie that are transformed, but then a transformation to a more shivery, Euromantic version of with fantastic tracks. I mean, the opening Hastings sets the tone. There's the track called The Thrower's Daughter, which looks to Mickey, but also their daughter Stella, and his sister Anna. And there's an emphatic touch and embrace of the women in his life. I think this album is more shoegaze than Brickbat, but it's so much more than that. It transcends the genre. It's kind of bending and warping it into something timeless, and it's beautiful in parts. It really is, and I think that's what will keep you returning to this again and again. You know, it's a bit like, and I'll mention this a lot about Spirit of Eden, but it's that kind of, you know, you play it and you kind of not sure, bits of it I like. The more you play it, the more it seeps into your consciousness, and you'll be playing this a lot. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. It's Piroshka, and it's the amazing album called Love Drips and Gathers. Really recommend this. Check it out.
Try not to think about the path you took. Roads not taken, disappear. A memory I think about today. Don't blink, make it pay. We never leave a trace of where we began. Only good for one, right on the carousel.
Our second Hot Stuff album choice is this, Teenage Snuff Film by Roland S. Howard. Let me set the scene. Recently, me and Andy went to a meet and greet with Green Gartside of Scritti Politti, and while we were sitting there waiting, this album was playing. The The first track came on, we both said, what's this? I quite like this. We were guessing Nick Cave, Lloyd Cole. The second track, yes. The third track, yes. A quick Shazam later, and it was this, Teenage Snuff Film by Roland S. Howard. Neither of us had ever heard of it before, but it sounded incredible. It was originally released in 1999 and re-released by Mute Records in 2020. Roland S. Howard's importance to the world's musical landscape and Mute's history cannot be understated. Roland was in early bands formed by Nick Cave, and he is often cited as the catalyst that turned that band's sound into the force of nature that will become Nick Cave's new band, The Birthday Party. After The Birthday Party split in 1983, Nick Cave formed the Bad Seeds and Roland formed the magnificent These Immortal Souls, whose album was released by Mute Records, and he also collaborated with a number of other people, including the brilliant Mute artist Fad Gadget. Teenage Snuff Film was released after the dissolution of These Immortal Souls, and it was well received by the critics. The album was praised for its dark, dramatic sounds, and it went on to become one of the most acclaimed and influential Australian releases of the 1990s. The album is a gorgeous wreck of an album. Blues textures and near-gothic soundscapes, even on the Phil Spector sounding cover of the Shangri-La She Cried, or the harrowing cover version of Billy Idol's White Wedding. A dark, brooding, epic and emotional force of nature. Admittedly, this is not our usual electronic album that you'd be expecting us to recommend, but it is essential listening. Roland sadly passed away in 2009, but this album, Teenage Snuff Film, which has been unavailable outside of Australia for many years, has now been remastered and re-released by Mute Records in 2020. Check it out, and I hope you like it as much as we did.
Little sister, who's your only one? Little sister, who's your Superman? Little sister, who's the one you want? Little sister, shotgun. It's a nice day to start again.
So that's it for another fantastic episode of Electronic Cafe. I hope you enjoyed our look at the fabulous Heaven 17. I hope you liked the albums we reviewed. Let us know, Mark and I, what you think of them. We kind of just want to make your ears happy. So please feedback to us and let us know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. You can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and more importantly, on YouTube, showing you great albums, talking about great music. We've got some good competitions I mentioned before coming up. So we've got a Jennifer Touch signed LP, and at some point we're going to be giving away this. Give me a second. This very rare K93 EP, 3 tracks, 10-inch. It's only 2,000. This is number 1339. This is a project that Hooky, Jazz Coleman and Geordie Walker did, getting together. And apparently everyone thought the demos had gone lost. Thankfully 3 of the tracks were found and remastered and put on vinyl. So one of you lucky people are going to have that. Also, one of you lucky people are going to get a signed Jennifer Touch album, which is one of Mark and I's favourite albums of 2020. So lots to look forward to. We've got some more interviews coming up. We're hoping to announce some pretty big names, like mega big names actually, in the next few weeks, fingers crossed. So look out for those, look out for more great episodes, and take care, and I'll see you all soon on the Electronic Cafe. Bye bye for now.
Stay safe, take care, and thanks for watching the Electronic Cafe. We'll see you again soon. Bye bye.